Today we are talking about social media trends. I am here with two of our excellent community managers, Annie Ford and Devon Thompson, and we are going to be talking about social media trends, the power of them, how to use them to drive engagements and conversations, but also how to strike that balance of using them authentically with a brand or trying to trend jack and not trying to trend jack. So, first things first, this is a question for the group. How do you identify a relevant trend for a brand, and how do you identify between something that's just for the community and the community only and brands shouldn't kind of get in on it versus trends that brands can kind of play around with?
You want to go, Annie?
Sure, I can start. I think the biggest thing is understanding what your brand's conversation is going to be relevant to that trend. So you don't want to jump in on something that your brand has no relevance in because it's not going to feel authentic and it's just not going to go along with your brand goals. So if you feel like you have a role in that conversation and it comes really easily and you're like, we could jump in on this and take it in this direction to make it brand relevant, go ahead and do it. If you are having a hard time thinking of a way that your brand can jump into the conversation, it's probably a sign that you should just avoid engaging with it.
Kind of just to echo that, I feel like relevancy is always just the biggest factor. You never want to just try too hard to try to make it something that is not, and like just stray away from the actual trend, and then like you're creating something that's not there essentially. So you'll just put yourself aside from everybody, harder to find. Um, your content will be harder to find compared to all these other brands that are probably more relevant as far as just like what the topic is. So you just want to try to stay on page and just understand like what the main goal of what you want to accomplish with that trend essentially.
That actually brings to mind something. What was it, a year ago now, maybe two? The Little Miss trend, right? Every brand
Mm.
and their mom hopped on it. So is that something? How do you know when a trend is like when something is that widespread? Is that just a free for all? Everybody should do it. Like, how do you decide at that point when everybody's got a Little Miss?
I think it also goes back to understanding what your brand goals are. If engagement and getting it in front of as many people's eyes as possible is your goal, why not go ahead and jump on the trend because it's already a trending conversation? That's what's being pushed to the top of people's algorithms. So you might as well make your own version of it. But if awareness is more your goal or driving traffic is more of your goal, you're probably not going to want to waste your time jumping in on a trend like that.
Also, something with that, I think that's a great example of just taking a trend, but also like Annie just mentioned, just like using it for your brand and understanding where you could tie in understanding your audience as well. Like how it says, little miss. You don't want to just be like a shaving company or something like that, trying to hop in little miss. So just understanding that, oh, this trend works, but we can just Mister only shaves once a month or Mister only shaves his mustache or something like that. So just understanding the trend and how you can put your own twist on it as well.
That's important too. I think I didn't think about how it potentially could the trend automatically appeals to a certain target audience. And then so essentially we would be taking that into account before applying that trend to a particular brand. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Definitely. There are trends that only exist in certain niche communities. So even if you're seeing it on your For You page and in your feeds, that doesn't mean that it's on a more widespread feed for everyone. And it might not be relevant to your brand at all. So just because you're seeing it doesn't mean that your brand needs to hop on it.
That's a really good point, Annie.
Thank you.
Last question before we get into some examples. So, brand consistency when talking about trends, and Devon, you just kind of tapped into that as far as like a shaving company with the little miss going into the Mister whatever whatever. How do you maintain that brand consistency? Are there any tips, top five things, top three things to do to make sure you're staying on brand when you're getting involved with the trend?
I feel like that just goes into learning and understanding your audience again. You just want to know, understand what the conversations are. If that trend is big and maybe someone might have commented something mentioning the trend or something like that, you just want to make sure that you're just staying on top of the community conversations. I feel like that's just like the number one overall thing that you need to do when it comes to trends and how to how to make sure that it applies to your brand as well.
All right, let's get into some examples. I know you guys have pulled some examples of some trending conversations that we've jumped in on. Let's talk about those. Talk about how you identified the trend, what the trend was, how you used it, and then also talk about how you measured whether or not it was successful.
Sure, I can start. One of the big ones that we saw a lot of success with was we did the beige flags TikTok trend for Entenmann's. And this is one that you maybe wouldn't think that immediately goes with a baking company right off the bat. But with a little bit of thinking and a little bit of how can we make this work for us, we decided to do my boyfriend takes multiple bites of a pop-um, which is his beige flag. So this works because not only is it using that trending language and the one-shot approach that people were doing, but it also is making it directly relevant to interacting with our product. So then it starts conversation in the comments of how many bites are appropriate to take of a pop-um. So that's just a way we were able to make it directly relevant to our product and really start that conversation on a topic that we might not have had a role in before.
To just feed off of that, I know for Mike and Nike, there was a on TikTok, of course, sounds are just probably like the biggest thing when it comes to trends anyway. And there was just like a big trend of it wasn't vibes, but like this is what we did for Mike and I. We said this is a vibe, this is a vibe, just trying to play on that sound. So we didn't particularly use the sound itself, but just making it recognizable for the audience as well. Like, oh, I've seen this before, but just of course putting our own twist onto it. So it allowed for Mike and I, to be in a unique space, but also like, oh, I understand what they're trying to do, and from just likes and comments and the community engagement as well, just the conversation, it did perform really well as well.
You just brought up a really good point. So there was a sound out there that everyone was using, but we wanted to get a brand in on that conversation. And we all know as social media experts that it's probably not wise. It's not that you can't do it, but it's not the wisest decision to just rip a sound. So can you talk a little bit more about what we did to take that sound and, like you just said, make it recognizable, and why we kind of did that for a brand as opposed to just taking the original sound?
Yeah, just straight to it. Taylor just recognized it and just recorded it herself, and it just sounded amazing. To be honest, like I didn't even think that was Taylor herself. When I heard it, I really thought that it was a sound from someone else. So just really, um, trying to again the target audience and using verbiage and everything that's relatable to the community, but also just trying to stay along with the trend as well. So this is a vibe. This is a vibe. Just the flow of it, as well as just the transitions as well with the content. It was just it allowed just a great way for us to put our own twist onto it, while also just staying along with the trend as well. So doing it yourself and trying to figure out different ways that you can put your own twist into it. So you might have to do some in-house things and record yourself, or just have someone else try to do something for you to try to make the sound work.
That's a
Yeah,
really good. Yeah, go ahead, Annie.
yeah, and another great thing Jervon mentioned the verbiage is it doesn't always have to be, we're jumping on this trend exactly how it is and we're going to do this in this specific way. It can be as simple as this language is trending, and we're going to use that in our copy. So a cool example of that is the My Roman Empire thing has been a trend on social media. So for OBX, we hopped on that and we used that copy with a picture of the OBX, just our Roman Empire. So it's kind of more of a if you know, you know situation, but it also works just as a standalone, even if people aren't in that trending conversation.
That's really smart. And even from a strategic standpoint, I'm a strategist. I didn't even say that at the beginning of this, but when it comes to trends, I think sometimes brands are often wanting to jump in, and what we've been talking about here is in making it your own, you also stay within copyright issues and laws and things like that, because trending sounds that may be trending are great and get you in the conversation but can also get you in a lot of trouble. So by being able to take these relevant portions of the trend, so whether, like Andy said, it's in copy and using that relevant language, or like Dermon was talking about, re-recording a popular sound that at this point has gotten enough traction that if you record it the right way, no one would know the difference. To be honest, I was same thing with you, Duran. When once it was recorded, I was like, "Wait, so we did it? Did we use the original sound, or did we not use the original sound?" So being able to do that in a way that really gives the brand ownership of a trend, but allows still some of that same brand recognition and fun jumping into the conversation. So I guess we just got a little bit of time left. I want to kind of end with, what does it look like to amplify a trend reach? So it's one thing to use the sound, and especially when you're talking about recording your own. Are there other tricks of the trade that you would recommend using to amplify the reach when a brand decides to hop in on a trend?
Do you want to hop in, Dervon?
I'm kind of thinking. I just always feel like when it comes to the trends, the audience is always the most important because they're the ones that made it a trend. So just with that, just understanding that and also going in and maybe commenting as long as it's on brand as well, maybe just commenting and engaging with the audience while still just staying on topic with that trend, if that makes sense. Staying on topic with the trend and also again with verbiage and everything like that. You just want to stay on topic with that. So for an example, with Mike and Ike, we know they're pretty big, huge a huge gaming community as well. So with that, you just want to try to stay on topic with the trends and the language in the gaming community as well. So just WRL to just use the most basic uh slang that they use in that community. So WRL just always trying to incorporate it where it makes sense as well, while it's also not forced. So just going within those comments, going within forums or whatever, and also just engaging to make sure that it's that you're being seen, that you're engaging with the audience in a way that's genuine and authentic as well. Is a way to amplify, I would say.
Yeah,
I
so
think,
listening to the community. And can you talk a little bit about like UGC and how that plays a role?
yeah, definitely. So UGC is a great opportunity to kind of acquire some things that maybe were a one time occurrence or something that you can't produce in studio. So, a cool example of that is for OBX. We had this awesome video of a whale and dolphin swimming together in the ocean. And obviously, that's not something that you can just go out and make happen. It's kind of something that was captured because it was happening in the moment. So, that was a great opportunity for us to request to use that UGC and go ahead and post it on our accounts. And that had already blown up kind of on its own. And then we saw it blow up again on our own accounts. So just using UGC for things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to produce on your own is a great option. And also to let other voices shine through. People love to hear from, more authentic voices. No one can speak better for the brand than your own fans. So kind of letting your fans speak for how much they love the brand can be a great tool as well.
Kinda
That's
just want to
awesome. Yeah.
piggyback off that as well, just with UGC. Really just echoing what Annie said as well, especially with the community. Like just UGC is just a great way to, of course, engage, but it allows the audience to see the authentic and the real of whatever the product or the whatever the service is that you're providing or helping with or whatever the case may be. So UGC is always just a great way in to trends, to boost brand performance, to boost the brand overall. So they want to see whatever your audience is, they want to see themselves in that UGC as well. Like, oh, I do the exact same thing that this person is doing. Like, I relate to them on this level as well. So, UGC is just always a great way in that's genuine, authentic, and just never fails to work.
That's a good key. All right, hot take. We'll end with this. Evergreen trends. What are trends that brands that are watching this could just incorporate into their content planning? Let's say two or three hot trending things that are more evergreen in nature. Maybe not as time sensitive, but can be used to stay relevant.
Totally. Transitions are huge right now. So making use of those quick edits, jump cuts, and transitions like that. That kind of goes along with doing TikTok style content. So setting things to music and kind of editing in a quick paced way. People have really limited attention spans these days. So making sure to keep things short and to the point is always a good start. You can also include several engaging things happening on screen at a time to make sure you keep users' attention. So, like overlays, text, jump cuts, just all those kind of things to make sure you're really grabbing people's attention and stopping the scroll.
Devon
And kind
says
of,
ditto.
yeah, and he kind of took everything I was, not everything, but definitely like the main things. Transitions are always huge. Again, the short attention span is just the way that with the way algorithms are set up too as well, like it's pretty easy to just get lost in the algorithm now. So you just want to try to create that eye-catching content that'll keep the user just on that post, whether it's for 5 seconds, 3 seconds, or whatever the case may be. Because again, the attention span is so short now. So transitions are always huge. One thing I would say could work for almost any brand is kind of like not highlight reels, but just this goes into transitions as well. But just like the highlight reel with the up tempo or just the up tempo sound that's eye catching, ear catching as well. So that's also another way for brands to um, a trend that brands can hop on for sure.
And also making sure you're not overproducing your content. There's a time and a place to do like the hype reel commercial style video. But if you're trying to hop on a trend that's one shot of just a person and you're overproducing it and making it super complex and a whole commercial out of it, you're going to be losing your audience there because that doesn't quite fit the trend. So don't overproduce things. Sometimes it can be as simple as a one shot upload and it'll do way better than if you spent hours editing.
That's a very good point. Social is social. So don't be afraid to use a phone and get that real UGC look for it. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you both. That's all the time we have for today. Hope you all have learned something about trends and how to incorporate them with your brand.